Grand rising, grand arrival, grand return. Peace and blessings to the righteous and the repentant alike. I am Chief Sophia of the AMERICAN Band of Indians, and this is a video on the Temple of Cancer, which is ruled by Artemis. And so this is a new series. We're going to go over each temple, which is the zodiac, and basically talk about each god or goddess that rules each of these temples. Now, Artemis is I think is the most important one because it is the 12 o'clock position on our clock. Cancer, when you rectify the tarot spiral, look at my daylight astrology video on that. When you rectify the tarot spiral, you have Cancer at the 12 o'clock position. Cancer is literally our emotions. It is our emotional regulator. And so the one who regulates our emotions is going to be quite important. Now, you may remember that for over a year, I was talking on and on and on about Diana. Well, Diana is Artemis. I just didn't put it all together on how it works because everyone has their information wrong. So I'm making this as my public announcement. If you try to apply the zodiac the way that I teach it to other people's predictions, it's not ever going to be correct because these people are not honoring and respecting the deities the way that they're supposed to in the energy that they're showing up in at this time. I cannot be the only one who recognizes this. And if I am, that's surely very sad because all of the signs are there. Like, there's no way you can, if you are doing the work, that you could not see this. It's plain as day. Over here on this channel, we've been seeing it, but again, we didn't know we was looking at a monkey. Like, we saw the tail, or elephant is really the best. We didn't know we were looking at an elephant. We saw the tail, we saw the snout, we saw the leg, we saw the side. Didn't realize it was an elephant. Now that we know it's an elephant, we're going to address it as the elephant that it is. And there is a big elephant in the room, and it is these Greek gods. Now, all of them are not the same. So this is why we have to be very specific about who is in charge of which temple, okay? Our body is a temple, right? And so if you are a Cancer person because you have a lot of Cancer in your chart, then you're ruled by Artemis. So imagine people who have the physical dis-ease of Cancer, more than likely their Cancer zodiac constellation is out of alignment, which would have caused them to have that dis-ease show up in their physical body. So rectifying their Artemis or Diana energy would probably resolve that. And that's why it's important to set this up, because a lot of things can be resolved energetically that it's not going to take as long as it used to take for all this stuff for people who see that this thing works. So again, I'm just going to break it down. This is just Wikipedia. I didn't do no deep research. I'm not doing no deep research, okay? We are highly spiritual and highly connected to the spirit realm over here. From all the other work that we've done, we don't have to go super deep to make the super deep connections. All we have to do is use what our Creator gave us, which is our God, to work with these different entities whom have volunteered their energy to help us correct the situation. Why? I don't know. Doesn't matter to me. I don't care. It's not like, again, Jesus alone could fix this, but they have a whole Antichrist that's been running around here for 1400 years, messing up and mucking up his message. So obviously we have to take a more universal approach to solution. Like, it's not, again, I've talked about many times how Jesus was trying to solve this problem, trying to solve that problem, and kept running into issues. This right here is a final solution, because once these entities are fully in their power and fully in control of what's happening on this planet, these people will not be able to get away with what they've gotten away with. It will be impossible. This is why they removed this religion, this ancient quote unquote Roman religion, from the people, because it is way more powerful than any god. It's way more powerful than any king. And they don't like that. You see, they don't like that. They want the kings to rule over us, but we don't want their kings. Okay, we want our Creator, and if this is who our Creator has given us, it will be evident within a year. And like I said, we're giving them a year. We've given every other entity. We gave Jesus, some of us, 30, 40, 50 years of our life. We sure can give these Olympic spirits a year to show us that, hey, this is the right way to go. This is what will get the job done. So that's my clause, all of my points that I want to point out. So on the screen, you have the imagery of Artemis. And as you can see, the picture of the like the wreath with the bow, it literally looks like a C. Like it literally looks like a C. So we have just been, they really misdirected us. So I want to point out who her relations are. So Cancer is in the Greek pantheon, it's Artemis. In the Roman pantheon, it's Diana. Remember, Diana is mentioned in the Bible. And Paul left them Diana worshippers alone, okay? So that's how you know what you know. In the Hindu pantheon, this would be Parnashavari. So this is the twin of Apollo. She is the goddess of hunting and wild animals, and her iconography is a deer. Okay, so I'm just reading from the Wikipedia. We're gonna make some comments. We're gonna try to keep these not too deep. And as time moves along, we will go as far into this as we need to. Okay. All right. In ancient Greek religion and mythology, Artemis is the goddess of the hunt, the wilderness, wild animals, transitions, vegetation, childbirth, care of children, and chastity. In later times, she was identified with Selene, the personification of the moon. She was often said to roam the forests and mountains, attended by her entourage of nymphs. The goddess Diana is her Roman equivalent. In Greek tradition, Artemis is the daughter of Zeus and Leto, and twin sister of Apollo. In most accounts, the twins are the products of an extramarital liaison. For this, Zeus's wife Hera forbade Leto from giving birth anywhere on solid land. Only the island of Delos gave refuge to Leto, allowing her to give birth to her children. In one account, Artemis is born first and then proceeds to assist Leto in the birth of the second twin, Apollo. So which came first, the moon or the sun? Now we know the moon came first. Our emotional selves come first, and then our physical selves with Apollo, the sun. That's one of the reasons why this is important. And also, as I mentioned when I talked about the September calendar, in Cancer season, we have 2 extra long days, meaning the degree is the same at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun is in the same degree for 2 sets of days. So instead of it being like one day and the next day, it's one day and the next day, and then a few days later, it's another day and the next day. So there's 2 long days in Cancer season. Okay. Artemis was a chorotrophic, child nurturing deity, being the patron and protector of young children, especially young girls. So Artemis protects young girls, Apollo protects young boys. So if you're wondering how that works, this is how it works. Artemis or Diana protects girls, Apollo protects boys. Okay. Artemis was worshipped as one of the primary goddesses of childbirth and midwifery, along with Aletheia and Hera. She is also the patron of healing and disease, particularly among women and children, and believed to send both good health and illness upon women and children. Artemis is one of the 3 major virgin goddesses, alongside with Athena and Hestia. All of them are in the zodiac, okay? Artemis preferred to remain an unmarried maiden was one of the 3 Greek goddesses over whom Aphrodite had no power. Aphrodite is one of our goddesses too. And that's important because it means that our sexual organs are not supposed, when we're in Artemis energy, our sexual organs should not be able to be used and abused and manipulated by Aphrodite. So this is why they don't want us to be in our emotional state. When you're in an emotional state, into your emotional, your Artemis, your Diana energy, you're not supposed to be controlled by sexual urges. That would be the quote unquote virginity. So again, and I just can't do it right now. Let's keep going. Let me read this. Her animals obviously are deer, serpent, dog, boar, goat, bear, quail, buzzard, and guinea fowl. Her symbol is the bow and arrows, the crescent moon, animal pelts, spear, knives, torch, lyre, and aromanth, which is the little headdress thing. Her trees are cypress, palm, and walnut. And her mount is what she rides on is a silver chariot driven by 4 golden horned deer. Okay. All right, let me keep going. In myth and literature, Artemis is presented as a hunting goddess of the woods, surrounded by her chaste band of nymphs. In the myth of Actaeon, okay, when the young hunter sees her bathing naked, he is transformed into a deer by the angered goddess and is then devoured by his own hunting dogs, who do not recognize their master. In the story of Callisto, the girl is driven away from Artemis' company after breaking her vow of virginity, having lain with and been impregnated by Zeus. In the epic tradition, Artemis halted the winds blowing the Greek ships during the Trojan War, stranding the Greek fleet in Aulis after King Agamemnon, the leader of the expedition, shot and killed her sacred deer. Artemis demanded the sacrifice of Iphigenia, Agamemnon's young daughter, as compensation for her slain deer. In most versions, when Iphigenia, Lord, I guess I have to learn some of these words, is led to the altar to be offered as a sacrifice, Artemis pities her and takes her away, leaving a deer in her place. In the war that followed, Artemis supported the Trojans against the Greeks, and she challenged Hera in battle. What I want to say about this is, for sure, this is who Sarah was working with, because remember all the times Sarah went what happened? Abraham said, this is my sister, this is not my wife, this is my sister, right? And so what happened? The king would take Sarah. This happened 3 or 4 times, and every time a angel, Artemis, would terrorize the king until the king did what? Paid out to Abraham, because Abraham had lied, but it didn't matter. These people got terrorized. Okay, so obviously the part they leave out that story is the woman Sarah was probably saying, that's my husband. Like, I don't understand why you're not listening to me. And so Artemis heard her and was like, oh, is that my servant Sarah? Let me go, Sarai, right? Sarai, before she was named Sarah. Is that my servant Sarai? Let me go help her out. Because Sarah was a virgin, basically, because she bore no children. She bore no children. And then God changed her name to Sarah, and then she could bear children. Okay? So this is how these tie into the Bible stories. Artemis is one of the most widely venerated in the ancient Greek deities. Her worship spread throughout ancient Greece, with her multiple temples, altars, shrines, and local veneration found everywhere in the ancient world. Her temple at Ephesus was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world before it was burnt to the ground. Artemis symbols include a bow and arrow. We already read all of these. Okay, we already read that. So when they try to figure out where her name come from, Artemis is an unknown or uncertain etymology. And then they try to say it was this, it was that. They don't know where the name came from, okay? So when you use her name, you're using a name, they don't know where it came from, okay? Just understand that. That's really important. So ancient Greek writers, by way of folk etymology, and some modern scholars, of course, have linked Artemis, Artemos, i.e. butcher, like Plato did. Artemis, or safe, unharmed, uninjured, pure, the stainless maiden. Okay, unmoved, calm, stable, firm. Okay, that is really the moon energy. You know, they lie about what the moon energy really is, but that's what it is. And let me see something. We've got if I'm not mistaken, We've got an art something. Oh, Artagolf, right? Artagolf. That's copper. So that's probably related to Artemis. That would be crazy. Let me write this down so I can come back and look at this. Um, Cause Artagolf is one of my guys. Artagolf is one of my guys. It'll be really funny if we just find out that a lot of these are just like Greek gods that they just renamed. They didn't want you to figure it out, so they just gave them all these weird names. That's the only one that has a name like that. And Artagolf is copper. The earth is power. The earth is power. That's what Artagolf means. All right. So let's go to some of her myths. And that's all we're going to do. We're not going to get into the epithets. I will talk about epithets when we do. I'm going to do a video for the Pisces total lunar eclipse coming up on September the 7th, 2025. And we're going to talk about epithets, but we're not going to get into that here because there's so many epithets. I, implore you, go to the Wikipedia. It is free, and just when you get a chance, read about it, because we've already experienced her energy, but she is the one who rules our Tzolk'in cycle, our Jubilee cycle. So it would behoove you, listen to me, it would behoove you to become familiar with the entity that rules our Jubilee cycle. Now, we already know her as her Diana form, right? Very, very well. We went deep down into Diana. We did not get into her in her Artemis form. So it's important to go and check her out, okay? So let's look at her mythology. It says, Leto bore Apollo and Artemis, delighting in arrows, both of lovely shape and like none of the heavenly gods, as she joined in love to the aegis-bearing ruler. That's from Hesiod in Theogony. Okay. Various conflicting accounts are given in Greek myth regarding the birth of Artemis and Apollo, her twin brother. In terms of parentage, though, all accounts agree that she was the daughter of Zeus and Leto, and she was the twin sister of Apollo. In some sources, she was born at the same time as Apollo, but in others, earlier or later. Although traditionally stated to be twins, the author of the Homeric hymn 3 to Apollo, the oldest extant account of Leto's wandering and birth of her children, is only concerned with the birth of Apollo and sidelines Artemis. In fact, the Homeric hymn are not stated to be twins at all, and it's a slightly later poet, Pindar, who speaks of a single pregnancy. The two earliest poets, Homer and Hesiod, confirm Artemis and Apollo's status as full siblings born to the same mother and father, but neither explicitly makes them twins. According to and we've seen this. Remember, with the whole incident with Cain and Abel, they were both born as twins, and they never talk about their twins and why they have to do this whole thing. And the whole reason Abel gets killed is because Adam said to Cain to marry Abel's twin and to Abel to marry Cain's twin, and Cain didn't want to marry Abel's twin. He wanted to marry his own twin. So this is there's precedent for them leaving these kind of details out. So we never understand why Cain kills Abel, and they say that it was jealousy, but it wasn't probably jealousy. More than likely it was hubris, meaning Abel was very proud because he didn't have to go out and till the ground like his brother Cain. He got to sit back and watch the sheep just do their thing, right? Like cattle, you don't do too much with the cattle. You kind of watch them go along, and therefore his sacrifice wasn't accepted and the other one was, which is not even true. Just a bunch of nonsense, like miscommunication, nonsense, and the kind of thing you see with an antichrist who believes that men should be with men, okay? Because that's what we're talking about. All right. According to Callimachus, Hera, who was angry with her husband Zeus for impregnating Leto, forbade her from giving birth either terra firma, the mainland, or on an island, but the island of Delos disobeyed and allowed Leto to give birth there. According to some, this rooted the once freely floating island to one place. According to the Homeric hymn Artemis, however, the island where she and her twin were born was Ortygia. In ancient Cretan history, Leto was worshipped at Phastos, and Cretan mythology, Leto gave birth to Apollo and Artemis on the islands today known as Paximadia. A scholium of Servius on Enid III, 72, accounts for the island's archaic name Ortygia, asserting that Zeus transformed Leto into a quail to prevent Hera from finding out about his infidelity. And Kenneth McLeish suggests further, in quail form, Leto would have given birth with as few birth pains as mother quail suffers when she lays an egg. The myths also differ whether Artemis was born first or Apollo. Most stories depict Artemis as firstborn, becoming her mother's midwife upon the birth of her brother Apollo. Servius, a late 4th, early 5th century grammarian, wrote that Artemis was born first because at first it was night, whose instrument in the moon, which Artemis represents, and then day, whose instrument is the sun, which Apollo represents. Pindar, however, writes that both twins shone like the sun when they came into the bright light. Of course, full moon, full sun, okay? After their troubling childbirth, Leto took the twin infants and crossed over to Lycia in the southwest corner of Asia Minor, where she tried to drink from and bathe the babies in the spring found there. However, local Lycian peasants or pagans tried to prevent the twins and their mother from making use of the water by stirring up the muddy bottom of the spring, so the three of them could not drink it. Leto, in her anger at the impious Lycians, had refused to offer her hospitality to a fatigued mother, and her thirsty infants transformed them all into frogs, forever doomed to swim and hop around the spring. Sounds like some people I know with pointy hats. The invention of archery itself is credited to Artemis and Apollo. I like Artemis, actually. When the giant Tityos tried to rape Leto, she called out to her children, who were still young, for help. The twins were quick to respond by raining down their arrows on Tityos, killing him. For his actions against Leto, Tityos was banished to Tartarus? Alright, where he was pegged to the rock floor and stretched on an area of 9 acres, 336,000 meters squared, while a pair of vultures feasted daily on his liver or his heart. Now remember, that is similar to what we were talking about with the story from Supernatural, where Dean was the first seal to be broken because a righteous man had been sent to hell, and basically he was being tortured in a similar fashion, stretched out and peeled apart. And then at the end of every day, the yellow-eyed demon Azazel was asking him, do you want to get off? Do you want to get off the rack? And what? Dean said no for a year, which was 1,000 years. And after 1,000 years, he couldn't take it no more. And so he got off the trap and started doing the troubling of the people, okay? The twin sons of Poseidon and Inphinidia, I'm sorry, y'all, Otos and Iphilates, grew enormously at a young age. They were aggressive and skilled hunters who could not be killed except by each other. The growth of Allodae never stopped, and they boasted that soon as they could reach heaven, they would kidnap Artemis and Hera and take them as wives. The gods were afraid of them, except for Artemis, who captured a fine deer that jumped out between them. In another version of the story, she changed herself into a doe and jumped between them. The Allodae threw their spears and so mistakenly killed one another. In another version, Apollo sent the deer into Allodae's midst, causing their accidental killing of each other. In another version, the Allodae start piling up mountains to reach Mount Olympus in order to catch Hera and Artemis, but the gods spot them and attack. When the twins had retreated, the gods learnt that Ares had been captured. The Allodae, not sure what to do with Ares, lock him up in a pot. Oh my goodness. Artemis then turns into a deer and causes them to kill each other. Lock somebody up in a pot. Can we say that story from the Zachariah thing where the pigs were put in a pot a boiling pot. Anyway, according to Diodorus, Britomartis was a nymph and a huntress known for her use of nets, for which she became a very beloved companion of Artemis. Minos, king of Crete and half-brother of Artemis, took interest in Britomartis and pursued her for 9 months. Britomartis continually fed his advances, and to escape, she at last leapt into the sea, possibly from Mount Dicte, and landed in fishermen's nets. She became entangled, but was rescued by Artemis, who then made her a goddess. Eurystheus commanded Heracles to catch the Cyrenian hind in the hope that it would enrage Artemis and lead her to punish the hero for his desecration of the sacred animal. The Cyrenian hind used to be the Pleiades, known as the mistress of the animals and a dear companion of Artemis. One day Zeus pursued Taygate, who invoked her protectress, who in turn saved her from her father by turning her into the hind. As Heracles was returning with the hind to present it to Eurystheus, he encountered Artemis and her brother Apollo. He begged the goddess for forgiveness, explaining that he had snared the hind as part of his penance, but promised to return it to the wild soon thereafter. Convinced by Heracles' earnestness, she forgave him, foiling Eurystheus' plans. The river god Alpheus was in love with Artemis, but he realized he could do nothing to win her heart. He decided to capture her. When Artemis and her companions at Letranoi go to Alpheus, she becomes suspicious of his motives and covers her face with mud so he does not recognize her. In another story, Alpheus tries to rape Artemis' ascendant Arethusa. Artemis pities the girl and saves her, transforming her into a spring in the temple of Artemis Alpheia in Latrine, where the goddess and her attendants drank. According to Antonius Libralis, Spirotes was a Cretan who was metamorphosed into a woman by Artemis for, while hunting, seeing the goddess bathing. Artemis similarly changed a Caledonian man named Calydon, the son of Astenome, into a stone when he saw the goddess bathing naked. So again, this whole thing of being seen bathing naked. Remember the story of Susanna, right? Like, these two wicked priests saw her and they lost their daggone mind. So again, where was Artemis at that time? And you could see how, because of what they was doing, all of the wickedness, they were separated from this pantheon, a lot of the quote unquote Israelites, even though they were playing out these same stories. It's all right. She's known for divine retribution. We're not going to read all of this. It's just so much. I wanted to get the biggest myths out there about her. Let's read about the Trojan War. We will read about we'll read the the major myths about her and about each Olympic god, and we'll read their involvement in the Trojan War, because as I mentioned, the Trojan War is it was the very first world war. It was a war of the worlds, like literally a war of the worlds. It was the first one before the Song of Roland. So this world war we had was really World War like 4. We already had 2 major world wars in the past, whatever. That's probably why when we had World War 1, they were like, okay, this is the Armageddon, but it didn't happen. Okay. So then they had to make sure these stories was never told, especially Roland, which that was absolutely a world war. And, okay, so let's read about the Trojan War. Artemis may have been represented as a supporter of Troy because her brother Apollo was the patron god of the city, and she herself was widely worshipped in Western Anatolia in historic times. Artemis plays a significant role in the war. Like Leto and Apollo, Artemis took the side of the Trojans. In the Iliad, Artemis is on her chariot with golden reins, kills the daughter of Bellerophon. Bellerophon was a divine Greek hero who killed the monster Chimera. At the beginning of the Greeks' journey to Troy, Artemis punished Agamemnon after he killed a sacred stag in a sacred grove and boasted that it was he was a better hunter than the goddess. When the Greek fleet was preparing at Aulis to depart for Troy to commence the Trojan War, Artemis becalmed the winds. The seer Kalachis erroneously advised Agamemnon that the only way to appease Artemis was to sacrifice his daughter Iphigenia. In some version of the myth, Artemis then snatched Iphigenia from the altar and substituted a deer, just like what happened with who? Abraham and Isaac. In others, Artemis allowed Iphigenia to be sacrificed. So also, Abraham was working with Artemis, because again, more Artemis mythology in his story. Like, this is amazing to me. In versions where Iphigenia survived, a number of different myths have been told about what happened to Artemis after Artemis took her. Either she was brought to Tauris and led the priest there, or she became Artemis' immortal companion. An Aeneas was also helped by Artemis, Leto, and Apollo. Apollo found him wounded by Diomedes and lifted him to heaven. There, the three deities secretly healed him in a great chamber. During the Thaumaterga, Artemis found herself standing opposite Hera, on which a scholium to the Iliad, where they represent the moon versus the air and around the earth. The moon versus the air around the earth. Artemis chided her brother Apollo for not fighting Poseidon and told him never to brag again. Apollo did not answer her. An angry Hera berated Artemis for daring to fight her. How now art thou fain, thou bold and shameless thing, to stand forth against me? No easy foe, I tell thee I am, that thou should thee me in might. I'll bet thou bearest the bow, since it was against women that Zeus made thee a lion, granted thee to slay whomever thou wilt. In good sooth, it is better on the mountains to be slaying beasts and wild deer than to fight amain with those mightier than thou. Howbeit, if thou wilt, learn thou of war, that thou mayest know full well how much mightier am I, seeing thou matchest thy strength with mine. Hera then grabbed Artemis' hands by the wrist, holding her in place, beat her with her own bow. God dang. Crying, Artemis left her bow and arrows where they lay and ran to Olympus to cry at her father Zeus's knees, while her mother Leto picked up her bow and arrows and followed her weeping daughter. God dang, man. And zodiacally that makes sense, because Artemis, okay, Cancer, from Cancer to Sagittarius, Cancer is Artemis, Sagittarius is Zeus. Cancer and Artemis, they're both on the back side of the wheel. And on the front, meaning the back side means it's kind of like against your, like, it's initiation from the outside, right? And on the front half of the wheel, you have Hera, who's basically Hera would be Aquarius, separated by, okay, so that makes sense. So anyway, long story short, it lines up with the zodiac when you read it, the stories like this. So this is all I'm going to say about Artemis. Obviously, there's tons and tons and tons of mythology on this. I again implore you, go to the Wikipedia, do your own research to get your own understanding. This was just my little interpretation, intro to it, because we want to do an intro on every entity we're working with, so that we can make sure we know who we're talking about. Because again, these people have done a big one on us and we don't know any of the stuff. So shalom, peace and blessings, and we'll see you in the next video.